Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm thrilled to have you here for another captivating tale that will tug at your heartstrings and keep you on the edge of your seat. Today's story is one of love, betrayal, and the quest for self-discovery. It's titled Caught Cheating, Husband Hires Private Investigator, Shocking Footage Revealed. Get ready to experience a tale of trust shattered and the pursuit of truth as we uncover the secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Tell something was up, but I didn't press. She said she was tired. So I went with it over the next few days. I started noticing that she was on her phone quite a bit, even around dinner time. I would ask, why is she texting a lot these days? And she would tell me that she was in a group chat, talking with her girlfriends about the girls' night out they had and planning another one. I didn't think much of it at the time. She was constantly texting her girlfriends. It was nothing new, but looking back now, I realized she was probably planning something with them that she didn't want me to know about. My wife works as a consultant for a big firm and would always come home stressed. So I didn't mind her having a night out with her girlfriends every so often. But now she is talking about another girls' night out. This will be the second girls' night out coming up in less than 3 weeks. The bad thing is, these women she hangs out with, 4 of them are all single. She is the only married one of the bunch, which in my opinion is not a good thing because it means she is the only one with something to lose. The other women are footloose and fancy-free. I don't want my wife to be a cheater, but I also don't want to control her or tell her what she can and cannot do. So, her second girls' night out came and went. I told her the next day that she needed to be careful and make sure her single friends didn't cause her to fuck up her marriage. She looked at me funny, but didn't say anything. After work one day, I stopped by my parents' house and talked to them about my frustration with my wife participating in these frequent girls' night out parties. I told my mom that the women she hangs out with are all single and none of them have anything to lose. My mom looked at me and said, "Well, I don't see anything wrong with a girls' night out, but I do see a problem with a girls' night out with only single women." My mom said she is playing with fire. Then my dad chimed in and said, "Yeah, if I were you, I would put my foot down and tell her that's enough." He also said the fact that she keeps going out to party without you is a major cause for concern. Then my mom jumped in again and said she did a girls' night out with her friends. 3 times in the 40 years my parents have been married, but my mom's girlfriends were all married. Mom said they were home by 11 p.m. They didn't stay out later than that. I thought about what they said on my way home and I decided they were right. I needed to nip this in the bud before it got out of hand. When I got home, I talked to my wife about it and she got angry, saying I was being controlling and didn't trust her. I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to control her. I just wanted her to be careful because I loved her. She didn't want to hear it and went to bed angry. The next day she left for her girls' night out. She didn't even come home from work. This was her 3rd girls' night out. I did not even know about this one. My wife didn't get home until after 2 in the morning. I didn't say anything. I just waited up for her. I pretended to be asleep. When she entered the bedroom, I decided I needed to find out what was going on and why she wanted to leave her family and party with her girlfriends on the way to work the next day. I called a friend of mine and asked him, did he still have the contact information for the private investigator he used for his company? A little backstory. My friend had an employee who was trying to get workman's comp for having an accident on the job. His employee was complaining after the accident that he couldn't come to work. So my friend promptly hired a private investigator. Turns out he wasn't injured at all. He was playing golf, played in a flag football league. Needless to say, he dropped the workman's comp claim. My friend gave me the number of the private investigator he used. He then asked me, was everything okay? I told him I wasn't sure. and I indicated that I think my wife is doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing. I said, she has been going out and doing these so-called girls' night out parties. My friend then asked me what made me think my wife was cheating. I told him about the 3 times she had gone out recently and stayed out until after midnight, coming home, smelling of alcohol. I also told him that when I confronted her about it, she got angry and defensive. He then said to me, "Well, it sounds like you have enough." I called the private investigator and set up an appointment to meet him after work. I met the private investigator and he asked me what I wanted him to do. I told him I wanted him to follow my wife and see what she was doing when she went out on her so-called girls' night out. The private investigator told me his fee was $100 per hour. And I said, I didn't care. I just wanted to know what my wife was doing. I gave the private investigator a picture of my wife. I told him what kind of car she drove, where she worked and what hours she worked. The private investigator told me he would start following my wife the next day. I waited impatiently for the private investigator to call me and tell me what my wife was doing. Finally, after 3 days, he called me. The private investigator told me to meet him after work. He had some footage to show me. He showed me footage of my wife leaving work in different clothes that day. On that day, she didn't leave for work in those clothes. She changed at work. He followed her to a bar. He went in and noticed she went to a table with a bunch of women, which were her girlfriends. They were there for about 2 hours. Then they all left. He followed them to a house about 15 minutes from the bar. He noticed a guy answered the door and they all went in. The private investigator was dressed in black. He tells me that at night, it helps him get closer for his surveillance. He walked up to a window at a slight distance and noticed all the girls were dancing, grinding on a few guys. And my wife was in the corner with some guy. He was squeezing her butt and she was kissing him. After that, he looked at me and told me, "I think you have enough to do what you need to do." He handed me this flash drive and he told me he will keep a copy just as a precaution. After meeting with the private investigator, I went home and cried. I couldn't believe my wife of 9 years had cheated on me and she was still doing it. I wanted to confront her, but I didn't want to show her the footage. The next day I got up and left for work without saying anything to my wife. She sent me a text on the way to work, asking why I didn't say anything to her. When I left, I did not respond to the text. When I got to work, I made it a point to call a few divorce lawyers to see what I was dealing with and how I could protect myself. I also started looking for a place to stay because I knew there was no way I could stay in the house with my wife. I will miss the boys, but their mother did this. I was absolutely devastated. My whole world had been turned upside down and I didn't know how to fix it. The only solution was divorce. I wasn't going to try and fix our marriage. She wants this single life. She can have it. I had to be strategic because I didn't want the boys to be alone while their mother went out on her girls' night out. I live in Massachusetts, which is a no-fault state, that much I know. So divorce should be pretty easy. When I got home that night, my wife was home sitting on the couch with the boys. I walked in and she asked how my day was. And the boys smiled at me and said, "Hey Dad," I wanted to cry, but I had to hold it in. A few hours go by and everyone is winding down. My wife puts the boys to bed and comes downstairs and asks me if I want to watch a movie with her. I said, "No, I don't think so." She then said, "Okay, I'm going to bed." I waited until she was in bed to go upstairs and get my stuff and leave. I waited until she fell asleep before I left the house. I didn't have anywhere to go yet. So I went to my parents'. It was late. My dad was worried and asked me, was I okay? I told him I had something to show him. We sat down at the dining room table. I pulled up the footage that my private investigator compiled and showed my dad what the private investigator found. And my dad was in disbelief. My mom came downstairs and I showed her too. They were both speechless. I told them I was moving out and getting a divorce. They didn't say anything to try and stop me. I'm sure they were disappointed, but what could they say? My wife had cheated on me and I was done. I stayed at my parents' house that night. The next morning I got up, I sent my boss a text and told him that I would be coming in late. I was honest with him and he didn't have a problem with it. After talking to my boss, I noticed my wife had sent me hundreds of text messages, wondering where I was and why I left last night. I didn't respond to any of them. I found an attorney and filed for divorce based on the grounds of adultery. And I moved out of the house. I went back to the house when I knew my wife wouldn't be there. And I left a note on the kitchen counter. I told her that I had filed for divorce and that she could find me at my parents' house if she needed anything. After work, I drove to my parents' house and I saw my wife's car parked in the driveway. I went inside and I saw my wife sitting at the kitchen table crying. She asked me why I filed for divorce and I slowly pulled out my phone and showed her the footage and told her that I did not deserve this. I didn't deserve the way you were treating me. We sat and talked for a while and we both decided it would be best if we divorced. I told her I didn't want the house. We were renting it anyway, so she could have it. She makes enough money to pay for it. At the divorce hearing, it was amicable. The judge gave me 30 days to get the rest of my things. I didn't go after her for alimony. I made more than her and I didn't have to pay child support. She was getting that from the kid's father already. We are both the same age, 33, and the boys are 7 and 8. It was heartbreaking because I loved those boys like they were my own and I was their father in every way, but biologically. My job offered me a position out of state and I took it, changed my phone number. Only my parents and a few friends have my new number and started a new life. It's been almost a year now and I'm doing well. I've started dating again and I'm in a much better place emotionally. My friends have told me that my ex-wife was asking about me and she even tried to reach out to me on social media. But I have no desire to speak to her or see her again. I'm glad I made the decision to move on with my life. And I hope you can do the same if you're in a similar situation. Thanks for reading. I have never shared anything about my life on these forums, but this was heartbreaking for me. I still struggle at times, but one day at a time is how I am dealing with it. If you enjoyed this story, please show your support by hitting the like button. Your engagement means the world to me and helps keep the stories coming. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on future tales filled with unexpected twists and turns. Subscribing not only keeps you in the loop but also supports me in my quest to bring you more captivating stories. So, take a moment to like and subscribe. Thank you again for your support and stay tuned for more incredible journeys. Until next time, keep believing in the power of stories to transform and welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm thrilled to have you here for another captivating tale that will tug at your heartstrings and keep you on the edge of your seat. Today's story is one of love, betrayal, and the quest for self-discovery. It's titled I Went to the Movies and Found a Toddler Watching a Horror Film. What happened next was unbelievable. Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now without further ado, let's go. I went to the movies last night to watch Halloween Ends on opening night. I had just gotten off work and was still in my suit, but I said screw it because I was too lazy to go home and change into more casual clothes and then drive to the movies. I sat down in my seat with my snacks, and during the previews I saw a toddler come into the theater that didn't look old enough for kindergarten yet accompanied by a kid who looked to be in middle school, and then their mother comes into the theater right behind them, and I saw the mother was holding her third kid, an actual baby who couldn't have been an older than 1 year at best. They sit down in the row seats directly below me. The way a theater is built has each row of seats consisting of luxury recliners with walls facing them separating them from the next row down. I couldn't actually see this mother and her kids unless I got out of my seat, stood up to look down on the row at them, or unless they were just entering the theater to sit down. At that point my brain is just screaming, "Are you serious right now? Like, are you really serious with this? You're going to bring a baby and a toddler into a horror movie? Not just any horror movie, mind you, but the horror movie of one of the most terrifying slasher icons, Michael Myers." To say I was already very annoyed that this mother's decision-making was an understatement, because she's not only going to cause her baby and toddler to get seriously scared by bringing them here, but I guess that she also wouldn't be doing anything to calm them down if one or the other started crying or being too loud during the movie. Lo and behold, I was right. Multiple times throughout the first half of the movie the baby started briefly crying or letting out a single loud bitch cry. It was loud enough that you could obviously hear it interrupt the sounds and dialogue of the movie. I was already mad at the woman for her garbage decision making and entitled behavior by bringing in children that shouldn't have been there and were all but guaranteed to interrupt the movie for everyone else. But her not doing anything to quiet them down was the final straw. And just to clarify for everyone who may ask, this mother did not get up even once to take her baby outside a theater to calm it down. This baby was consistently loud and disruptive the whole time the family was there. I got out of the seat and walked out of the theater to a couple of employees outside of that particular theater and explained the situation. They said they would contact their manager to come into the theater and get the woman and her kids to leave. I go back into the theater, and before long 15 or 20 minutes have passed with no sight of the manager or employees in the theater. During that time period the baby is still loudly whining and crying here and there, once again stopping me from really enjoying the movie. At that point the movie hadn't reached its bloody gory climax, but I was going to wait around until then or afterwards for this to get addressed and risk the chance of that baby and slasher toddler to get scared out of their minds and ruin it for me and everyone else. I got up again and went to talk to the employees again, and that's when they finally got their manager to go into the theater and talk to the woman to get her and her kids to leave. I stood off to the side by the giant hole when you enter the theater watching the movie as a manager and an employee talked with the mother, so I never got to see what actually happened or what was said. The mother and her two younglings had already interrupted the movie enough for me, and I wasn't going to miss another second by focusing on them about to get kicked out. A little over 5 minutes later the employee came back by me and said they were about to leave the theater. I saw the mother carrying her baby followed by her middle school aged child and the toddler carrying her sippy cup leaving the movie theater. I and everyone else finally got to watch the rest of the movie in peace, which was about another 40 to 45 minutes and just so happened to be the best part of the movie. After the movie was over I found the manager that kicked the mother and her kids out to thank her for fixing the problem. She told me it was no big deal and that actually legally the mother should have never been allowed to see that movie in the first place. According to the theater's policy, children under 6 old cannot enter R-rated movies after 6 p.m. So the mother shouldn't have been allowed to buy tickets in the first place, considering she had a toddler and a baby was her. However, the employee that sold her the tickets was being trained and didn't know about that policy yet, so he mistakenly sold her the tickets. The manager told me that because of that the mother was entitled to a refund of her movie tickets, which I understood. It didn't matter in the end though, as a toddler and the baby didn't see the goriest and scariest parts of the movie, nor did the best part of the movie get ruined for me and everyone else in that theater. So to start, I love my dogs. I have 2 dogs that I frequently take out for walks even during the pandemic. Both are rescues and have gone through way more hard stuff than I did. I decided to take Josephine, the oldest, out for a walk since Millie, the youngest, is fast asleep. We took the route we usually take when we go out for walks. I then noticed that there is a new donut shop that opened. The donuts looked nice and delicious, so I decided to grab some. Only thing is no dogs are allowed to go inside, but the owners were nice to leave a spot outside for dogs. It had a bowl full of water as well, so I put Josephine outside. I was inside for like 5 minutes or something since there were like 3 people already there. I was just browsing through Reddit, then I heard my dog scream, then I saw this lady smacking my dog with her umbrella at full force numerous times. I quickly rush outside and say, "What are you doing, lady?" I then took away Josephine, but she still tried to smack her. She even hit me in the leg a couple times. I kid you not, these are the exact words that came out of this lady's mouth. "Your dog scratched my car." Her car was across the street, by the way, far away from Josephine. She went to this friend and said that I let my dog wander outside without a leash and that she had to chain my dog after she scratched her car. I don't know if you've been following the story, but I chained my dog way before this lady started hitting her. I was legitimately confused. I immediately called the cops, and the cops arrived while she was still ranting, and then I had to pay for her car with my insurance. I'm 15, by the way, and I don't know anything about this insurance thing, so the cops intervened and tried to calm the situation down. The lady then decided to play the victim and said that my dog viciously attacked her. My dog did attack her since she was getting hit with an umbrella by a person. She didn't know. The cops pulled her to the side and let her tell her side of the story. I think I heard stuff like my dog scratched her car and attacked her, and that she bravely chained my dog. Cops did the same to me, then pulled me to the side, and I got to tell my side of the story. They then asked the shop owner if they could see the cameras outside the shop while I was tending my dog, check in for any wounds. I saw the cops handcuff the lady after they were done watching the footage and forcefully shoved her in the car because she was resisting arrest. She then threatened to sue me for harassment while screaming profanities. 3 days later. No one sued me yet. My dog and I are fine, but she was whimpering all throughout the situation. Sadly, she got traumatized. She's still recovering and we're now doing well. A little update: I was gonna sue her for animal abuse and later found out that she was already in jail for insurance fraud and assault. I don't know about the insurance fraud part, but she apparently tried to push her coworker out of a window. At least that's what I heard, which isn't assault but attempted murder anyway. I didn't continue with the charges because she's serving 5 years in prison now. I would try to sue her and try to extend her sentence, but I don't want to go through a whole process just to make someone's life a lot more miserable. People have lost that last bit of sanity during these troubling times. Okay, so I smoke cigars, mostly cheap factory rejects. But an occasional good one too. I do not smoke in my house or around other people, as I know a very select group of people enjoy that particular aroma. Another point to note here is I drive my youngest to and from school, seeing as the weather in my neck of the woods is bipolar at best. So sitting yesterday afternoon, I parked way outside the school zone in a line to pick up kids, probably a block away in a residential neighborhood. I drive a big truck with a loud exhaust system. The players are me, Karen, and the school principal. I'm in a line of vehicles, engine off, listening to a good book on Audible, smoking the last bit of a good cigar. For those who don't know, a cigar can be sit down and refreshed if need be also. I never smoke on school grounds and always have it out before my kid gets in a truck. It's my truck and no one else drives it, so I don't mind the smell of tobacco, and I have a bottle of Febreze that I use every couple of days anyway. About 5 minutes later, I see a woman gets out of her car and begin to approach me. I watched her walk up past the 2 vehicles behind me and heading my way. She's got a typical Karen look: hair, clothes, way too much makeup, and the light. She comes up right on my window and just stands there looking at me. I rolled my window down all the way and asked her if she needed anything, and the dialogue was as follows: "What do you think you're doing?" "Excuse me?" "You're smoking the pot." "Yes." "She called it the pot on school grounds. You should be ashamed of yourself." "What are you talking about?" "I can see it in your hand and smell it." "Well, obviously you can't smell it because this is a cigar." "I don't think so." "I am calling the police." "Knock yourself out, you weirdo." After her brain short circuits from being talked to like that, she tried to open my door, which was locked. Then she reached in my window and tried to grab the cigar out of my mouth. Now life has taught us all from a young very age that fire is hot and things that burn from fire are also hot, but physics never seemed to be on the forefront of these jerks. So she immediately burned her hand on the cigar and jumped back, screaming that I did that on purpose. I started laughing because it was funny. She then tried the door again and I obliged by opening it as hard as I could, which knocked her back onto her back, which made me laugh even more. "You jerk, I'm going to report you for assault. I'm going to get you and your kid kicked out of here." "Yeah, whatever, Karen, go back to your car before you have a heart attack." She walked back to her car, all the while yelling obscenities. I made sure to keep an eye on her in my rear view until we got closer to the school. Now the school principal is always outside directing traffic between the parents and school buses. He and I know each other because being in a northern state, but being fans of the U of Miami is not something you see a lot up here, so we've talked about football and other stuff about the school. So he knows me a little, and my truck is unique in size, color, and exhaust. As I'm waiting to pull up to the place where you pick up your kid, I see Karen park, get out, and head directly towards the principal. She made sure to walk by me and give me dirty looks like I guess that was supposed to intimidate me or something. Spoiler alert, it didn't. She gave the principal an earful, couldn't quite hear what she said, but made sure to be as dramatic as possible, probably telling him I'm a drug addict and a monster and all. That principal is doing his best to direct traffic and put up with her nonsense. And I assumed said something to placate her because she walked away all smug and again made sure to walk by me so I could see her big grin. I smiled back and waved at her sassily. I pulled up and my kid got in, and as I figured he would, the principal came over to me. Did you really put a plant of pot out on her hand and slam your door into her head? He asked me. That's so stupid. I don't even know where to start. First she reached into my vehicle and tried to get the cigar out of my mouth, and she burned her own hand like the dummy she is. Second she tried to open my door not once but twice, so I applied to her the second time. Third, if I opened the door as hard as I could into her head, she'd be knocked out on the road if she got bruised along with her ego. That's just tough crap, I guess. The principal sighs voluptuously and says, that's about what I thought happened. Just do me a favor and don't retaliate. Okay. I don't need another headache. No worries from me, man, just here to pick up the kid. Go Canes. My kid put up the U symbol as we drove away, and that's it. I'll be picking up the kid later today again, so hopefully there is no repeat to that nonsense. Karen will be so thrilled to know that I didn't get the outcome she thought I would. After telling the principal, at least she got what she deserves and had her hands burned in her but falling to the floor. I mean, that's what happens when you don't mind your own business. When my father moved from Ohio to Sacramento in the 1950s, he initially had 6 roommates, 2 per room, so they could keep things as affordable as possible. In the fall, the residents would rake their leaves into large piles in the gutter/side of the street. The city would send out vacuum trucks and collect the leaves on specific prearranged days, while some kids thought it was great fun to drive their car through the big piles of leaves and scatter them everywhere. My father and his roommates would then have to scramble to take everything back into a pile, or the city would not vacuum up the unorganized leaves. After about 3 weeks of this, one of his roommates, who worked graveyard shift as a mechanic at the municipal bus yard, was tired of screwing around with the leaves. After a long night of work, without telling the other roommates, when he left for work, he dropped an engine plug off his truck and covered it in a big pile of leaves at around 2 a.m. There was a horrific crash that woke up all the neighbors. Fortunately, the kids in the car were not beat up too badly, since the car was not only going about 15 miles per hour upon impact. It turns out the kid who was driving was the son of a police officer. When the cops contacted his father, he asked if his son was injured. When he was told he was fine, his father told the cops to let him walk home and not under any circumstances were they to give any of the kids a ride home. That must have been a long cold walk. In the morning, when the roommate returned from his shift, he came into the house and said something like, "You never know why you're going to catch when you go fishing." I interpreted this story as a warning that screwing with people might be funny the first few times. More than 2 times the same joke is no longer funny. For context, I'm a 17-year-old male working for my local McDonald's in a Midwestern USA, and this happened last night. We have a regular, the Karen in the story, who always come through our drive-thru and orders 2 large iced teas and a large Colombian coffee. In case you aren't familiar, some McDonald's stores sell a Colombian brew coffee, which has a much stronger flavor, way more of a kick to it, just as bitter as a Karen's soul. How fitting. Whenever there is an order for 3 or more drinks, we assume that they will want a drink tray because it makes things work better and quicker for us. However, Karen does not want a drink tray. In fact, you think she's allergic to them. If you try to give her one, she snaps at you and tries to boss you around. My coworker, who I will call Jemima, didn't know about her aversion to drink trays because she normally works different shifts and had never dealt with her before. She handed her drinks out on a tray, and Karen took the drink tray and threw it at her, pressed it right back into the window. Jemima was shaking naturally and told the manager what happened last night. Karen came through the drive-thru again, and this time Jemima was at the first window where you pay for your food. She got a manager, and not just any manager, or general manager, who is the highest person on the ladder in our store. The next level is original manager, who takes care of the 8 stores owned by our franchise. He happened to be right there, and he knew what happened. He sold Karen her coffees, but only after making it clear that she was not allowed to come back after what she did. If she comes back, not only will we ban her from all 8 stores, all the McDonald's stores in our area are owned by the same family, so she will almost certainly have to drive at least 40 minutes or something to get to a McDonald's. She's allowed to go to, but we will also call the cops on her for trespassing. She got to my window and said I don't want to drink Trey, and I just said I know that as sassily as my thoroughly not sassy personality would allow. Update: she came back today. The official policy about what to do about her hadn't gotten around to all of the managers yet. But one of the managers there tonight sent the GM a message letting him know she came by, hopefully by the next time she comes back. Everybody knows about it and we can call the authorities on a Karen. Thank you for watching and see you next time. If you enjoyed this story, please show your support by hitting the like button. Your engagement means the world to me and helps keep the stories coming. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on future tales filled with unexpected twists and turns. Subscribing not only keeps you in the loop but also supports me in my quest to bring you more captivating stories. So, take a moment to like and subscribe. Thank you again for your support and stay tuned for more incredible journeys. Until next time, keep believing in the power of stories to transform. And hey there, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, you're go-to storyteller for tales that unravel the complex tapestry of relationships, family dynamics, and the unexpected twists life throws our way. Today, I have a story that's both heart-wrenching and empowering. It's titled, My 20-Year Marriage Was a Lie, Walked In on My Wife and Her Secret Lover. This is a tale of love, betrayal, and ultimately, the resilience of the human spirit. Buckle up, because this one is going to take you on an emotional roller coaster. Been married to Sarah for 20 years. College sweethearts, the whole 9 yards. Built a good life together. Nice house, great kid. Thought we had it all. Well, guess what? Turns out happily ever after can take a sharp turn at, never saw that coming, lame. Booked a surprise flight back early from a business trip. Thought I'd surprise Sarah with takeout and a movie night. Key in the door, expecting the usual flickering TV, smell of her jasmine candles. Hit with silence instead. Empty house. Weird. Stomach started churning. Checked the bedrooms. Master door was unlocked. A sliver of light peeked out. Pushed the door open slowly. There it was. Like a scene from a bad soap opera. Sarah. Tangled in the sheets, with some random dude. Rage? Yeah. There was rage. But mostly, a cold emptiness. Didn't yell. Didn't scream. Just a strangled noise that escaped my throat. The dude scrambled out of bed, fumbled for his clothes, and bolted. Sarah? Tears, apologies, a babbling mess. Didn't hear a word. Just stood there, the picture of betrayal hanging in the air. That's when the plan started forming. Didn't want a screaming match, throwing things. Needed to be clear-headed, strategic. Feigned acceptance, told her we'd talk in the morning. Spent the night on the couch, the image of them burned into my brain. Morning light brought a strange kind of calm. Pretended everything was normal while secretly gathering evidence. Phone records, receipts, anything to prove what happened. Hired a lawyer, a shark. The kind who takes no prisoners, especially cheating spouses. Sarah noticed the lawyer. Panic set in. She tried talking, pleading. Didn't care. The truth would come out, and she'd pay. The lawyer was good. Found hidden bank accounts, a trail of secret art sales Sarah had been keeping from me. Turns out, while I was grinding away at work, she was playing the starving artist with a secret stash. The divorce was brutal. Exposed the affair in court filings. Sarah became the town pariah. The other guy vanished without a trace. Justice, in a way. Got full custody of our son. He needed stability, away from the wreckage of our marriage. Sold the house, a fresh start for both of us. It wasn't easy. Therapy sessions helped me and my son navigate the emotional fallout. Leaned on old friends for support. Slowly, tentatively, started dating again. Met someone new recently. She's kind, funny, everything Sarah wasn't at the end. Still a work in progress, but I'm moving on. Learned a harsh lesson, but one that made me stronger. There's life after betrayal, and sometimes, revenge is best served cold, calculated, and with a killer lawyer by your side. Life with a newborn wasn't easy, but it was good. Sleepless nights, mountains of laundry, the usual. Sarah seemed happy, the baby healthy. Then things started changing, slowly at first. Remember that whole, focusing on her art career, thing? Seemed forgotten. No more late nights in the studio, paints collecting dust. Work became my world. Climbing the corporate ladder to support our growing family. Didn't mind. That's what husbands do, right? Then came the weird stuff. Little things at first. Unexplained charges on the credit card. A new perfume I didn't recognize clinging to her clothes. Ignored it. Figured I was just tired. Big mistake. The late nights, working on art, started. Calls taken with hushed voices, out of earshot. Missed dinners. Excuses that never quite fit. I tried talking to her, asking what was wrong. Just brushed me off, said I was overreacting. One night, I came home to an empty house. No Sarah, no baby, just a cold, gnawing feeling in my gut. Called her phone, went straight to voicemail. That's when the suspicion really hit. Where was she? With who? The next morning, Sarah waltzed in like nothing was wrong. Tried to play it cool, but the guilt was etched on her face. Confronted her, demanded the truth. Stuttered excuses, tears, the whole drama queen routine. Didn't buy it. Something bigger was going on. That's when I knew this wasn't just a rough patch. This was betrayal, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Didn't yell. Didn't scream. Just a quiet determination settled in my gut. Sarah would regret the day she messed with our family. The game was on. Those late night art meetings were starting to grate on me. Came home one night, expecting the usual takeout containers littering the counter. Sarah hunched over a canvas with paint-splattered overalls. Nope. Empty house. Silence so thick you could cut it with a knife. Checked her studio untouched. No paints, no brushes, just a layer of dust. A knees coiled in my gut. Where was she? Called her phone again. Voicemail for the third night in a row. Texted. Where are you? One word reply. Busy. Busy with what? That was the question gnawing at my sanity. The next morning, Sarah breezed in, all smiles and apologies. Claimed she'd been at a committee meeting that ran late. Committee meeting? For her art club that didn't exist anymore? My patience was wearing thin. Committee meeting, huh? My voice was flat, emotionless. Sarah's smile faltered. Yeah, for the, upcoming gallery show. Liar. There was no gallery show. I knew it, and she knew I knew it. Didn't press her then, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Started noticing other things. Those little unexplained charges on the credit card? More frequent now, and for things Sarah would never buy: fancy restaurants, jewelry stores. The phone calls. Always on mute. Always hushed whispers when I walked into the room. The lingering scent of a cologne I didn't recognize. These weren't random occurrences. This was a pattern, and the picture it painted wasn't pretty. One evening, Sarah left her phone unattended. Stupid mistake. A notification popped up, a text from an unknown number. My heart hammered in my chest. Curiosity, or maybe a morbid sense of dread, took over. Clicked on the message. It was short, just a few words, but enough to shatter my world. Can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a late art meeting or a committee dinner. This was something far worse. The truth was staring me in the face, and I knew then my life was about to change forever. The lingering scent of that cologne was driving me crazy. It wasn't just on her clothes anymore. It seemed to cling to her like a second skin. Asked her about it. Said it was a new art supply. She was trying. Yeah, right. Art supplies don't smell like expensive cologne shops. Then came the weekend getaway. Need some inspiration for a new piece, she said, booking a cabin in the woods for herself. Didn't like it, but what could I say? Maybe some time alone would clear her head. The empty house felt strange, a hollow echo of the life we once had. Missed Sarah. Missed our son, but mostly missed the feeling of normalcy. The conference dragged on, presentations and meetings blurring together. Just wanted to get back home, get some answers. Booked an earlier flight, a surprise for Sarah. Figured a home-cooked meal and a movie night might mend things. Landed. Grabbed takeout, keys in hand, picturing a cozy evening. Nope. Reality check time. Walked in the door, expecting the usual flickering TV, smell of her jasmine candles. Hit with silence instead. Empty house. Same feeling of dread as before. Where was she? With who? This time, I wasn't going to let it slide. Checked the bedroom, then the bathroom. Nothing. But then, a glimmer of hope, her phone was on the kitchen counter, screen lit up. Stupid mistake number 2. Picked it up, heart pounding. The same text message notification from before. Clicked on it, bracing myself. This time, it wasn't just a few words. It was a full-blown conversation, a lovey-dovey exchange that made my stomach churn. Didn't need to read the whole thing. Enough was enough. The pieces of the puzzle finally clicked into place. The late nights, the perfume, the weekend getaway. It was all there, black and white, a digital betrayal staring me in the face. Anger surged through me, hot and potent. But then, a cold logic settled in. Panic wouldn't help. Needed a plan. Needed revenge. Served cold and calculated. Sarah had shattered our life, and I wouldn't let her get away with it. The game was on, and this time, I was playing to win. Didn't even slam the phone down. Just stared at the screen, the sickening confirmation burning into my brain. Betrayal. Raw and unfiltered. My wife, in our bed, with another man. The life I thought we had, shattered in a million pieces. First came the rage. Blind, primal fury that choked the air out of my lungs. Wanted to scream, to tear things apart. But then, something unexpected happened. The rage receded, replaced by a cold, steely calm. Dangerous calm. Sarah walked in then, all smiles and, "How was your trip?" Didn't flinch. Just played along, the evidence burning a hole in my pocket. Needed to keep her off guard, buy time for my plan. Good, I said, voice flat. Early flight, figured I'd surprise you. Her smile faltered for a second, just a flicker of unease I didn't miss. The next few days were a blur. We slept in separate rooms, a tense silence hanging heavy in the air. Sarah kept trying to talk, to explain. Ignored her. Didn't need her lies, not anymore. Focused on gathering proof. Downloaded phone records, checked credit card statements. Hired a lawyer, a shark my friend recommended. The kind who takes no prisoners, especially cheating spouses. Costly, but worth every penny. The lawyer was good. Found hidden bank accounts, a trail of secret art sales Sarah had been keeping from me. Turns out, while I was grinding away at work, supporting our family, she was playing the starving artist with a secret stash. Livid doesn't even begin to describe it. The confrontation was anticlimactic. The lawyer laid out the evidence, cold and hard. Sarah crumbled, tears streaming down her face. Didn't feel a shred of pity, just a deep-seated disgust. The divorce was brutal. Exposed the affair in court filings, let the town know what she'd done. She became the town pariah, the scorned wife. Karma, I guess. The other guy vanished without a trace, probably for the best. Got full custody of our son. He needed stability, away from the wreckage of our marriage. Sold the house, a fresh start for both of us. It wasn't easy, but I survived. Therapy sessions helped me and my son navigate the emotional fallout. Leaned on old friends for support. Slowly, tentatively, started dating again. Met someone new recently. She's kind, funny, everything Sarah wasn't at the end. Still a work in progress, but I'm moving on. Learned a harsh lesson, but one that made me stronger. There's life after betrayal, and sometimes, revenge is best served cold, calculated, and with a killer lawyer by your side. Don't let anyone mess with you or your family. Fight back. That's what I did. The silence after Sarah's breakdown was deafening. No tears, no apologies, just a whimpered plea for forgiveness. Didn't even look at her. Didn't deserve eye contact. The betrayal was a fresh wound, raw and throbbing. But something else bubbled beneath the hurt, a cold, steely resolve. She might have shattered my trust, but she wouldn't break me. No way. Didn't want a screaming match, throwing things. Needed a clear head, a plan. Feigned acceptance. Mumbled something about needing sleep. Crawled into bed on the couch, the image of them burned into my brain. Sleep wouldn't come. Mind racing, piecing things together. The perfume, the late nights, working on art, the distance I'd tried to ignore. It all fit now. A sickening puzzle clicking into place. Next morning, woke up with a newfound purpose. This wasn't about yelling or crying. This was about getting out, getting even, and protecting my son. She'd played me for a fool, but not anymore. First order of business evidence. Started small, discreetly. Downloaded phone records, checked credit card statements. Anything that could prove her infidelity. Built a case, brick by brick. Then came the lawyer. Called a friend, got a recommendation. Someone tough, I said, someone who takes no prisoners. He laughed and gave me a number. Met with the lawyer the next day. Sharp guy, expensive as heck, but his eyes held a steely glint that matched my mood. Laid out the situation, the evidence I'd gathered. He listened, took notes, a small smile playing on his lips. We can make her life a living hell, he said, his voice calm but firm. Exactly what I wanted to hear. Didn't care about revenge for revenge's sake, but she needed to pay. For the betrayal, the lies, the disrespect. The following weeks were a blur. Lawyer meetings, digging up dirt, strategizing. Sarah noticed the change, the steely glint in my eyes. Tried talking, pleading again. Ignored her. This wasn't about her anymore. The day the divorce papers hit her was priceless. Shock, then anger, then a desperate scramble. Too late. The evidence was there, cold and hard. The lawyer had unearthed hidden bank accounts. A secret stash of money Sarah had squirreled away from her, starving artist, act. Livid doesn't even begin to describe it. The divorce wasn't pretty, but it was mine. Full custody of my son, the house sold, a clean break. A new beginning. Away from the wreckage of our marriage. It wasn't easy, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Stay tuned. There's more to this story. The lawyer called it financial warfare. Didn't care what they called it. Point was, Sarah wouldn't mess with me anymore. Changed all the bank passwords, froze our joint accounts. She could scream all she wanted, but the money train had stopped. We were living under the same roof, but it might as well have been different planets. Slept on the couch, ate microwave dinners. She'd try talking, pleading, but I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. The only words that passed between us were the ones relayed through lawyers. The divorce filing hit her like a ton of bricks. Full custody, the house on the market. The lawyer didn't hold back. Then came the kicker. He exposed the affair in the court documents. Public humiliation, he called it. Savage, but effective. News travels fast in a small town. The whispers started, then the stares, then the full-blown gossip. Sarah couldn't leave the house without someone pointing fingers. The other guy in the picture? Vanished without a trace. Coward. Didn't feel any pleasure in her pain, not really. But there was a strange sense of satisfaction. She'd betrayed me, our family, and now everyone knew. Karma, I guess. The divorce itself was a blur. Lawyers argued. Papers were signed. A judge finalized things with a slam of his gavel. Sold the house quickly, a fresh start for both of us. Except, mine would be fresh and clean, hers, well, let's just say the town wouldn't forget anytime soon. Got full custody of my son, the most important thing in all of this. He was confused, scared at first. Therapy sessions helped, along with a ton of patience and reassurance. Slowly, we started rebuilding our lives, piece by broken piece. There were lonely nights, of course. Empty chair at the dinner table, the silence echoing in the house. But there were good days too, filled with laughter and board games, the simple joys of father and son. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. Met someone new at a local coffee shop. She was kind, funny, everything Sarah wasn't at the end. We started talking, then going out for coffee more often. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for happiness again. It's been a long road, full of twists and turns. But I learned a valuable lesson. Life throws you curveballs, but you gotta keep swinging. Now, with my son by my side and a bright future ahead, I can finally say this. I'm moving on. And Sarah? Well, let's just say she's a chapter in my life that's permanently closed. The lawyer called with an update, a smirk in his voice. Found a little surprise, he said. Turns out, Sarah's starving artist act was a bigger lie than I thought. He'd uncovered a trail of secret art sales, hidden bank accounts, years' worth of hidden income. Blood pressure spiked, but the lawyer just chuckled. This changes everything, he said. He was right. With this new evidence, the divorce settlement took a sharp turn. Significantly sharper assets ended up on my side of the table. Sarah? Well, let's just say she walked away empty-handed, besides the clothes on her back. Didn't feel sorry for her, not one bit. She played me for a fool, used me as a financial crutch while squirreling away money for her secret life. Now, she could reap what she sowed. The custody battle was the toughest part. Sarah put on a show, the devoted mother act. But the lawyers saw through it, and so did the judge. My son, bless his confused little heart, just wanted things to go back to normal. Therapist reports, school records, even Sarah's erratic behavior during the hearings, it all painted a clear picture. The judge's decision was music to my ears. Full custody to me, Sarah got visitation rights, but supervised. A bitter victory, but a victory nonetheless. Sold the house, a place filled with too many memories, both good and bad. New beginnings for both of us, I suppose. Except, mine would be with a clean slate and a happy son by my side. Hers? Well, the town wouldn't forget her little escapade anytime soon. Single fatherhood wasn't easy, but it was rewarding. School plays, soccer games, scraped knees, all the little moments that mattered. My son was healing, slowly but surely. The therapist said it would take time, but seeing him smile again, genuinely smile, made it all worth it. Then, life surprised me again. Met someone new at a local coffee shop. She was kind, funny, everything Sarah wasn't at the end. We started talking, then going out for coffee more often. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for happiness again. This whole ordeal changed me. More cautious, yes, but not cynical. I learned a harsh lesson, but one that made me stronger. Life throws curveballs, but you gotta keep swinging. And sometimes, when you least expect it, good things come your way. So, here's to new beginnings, to second chances, and to finally moving on. The road ahead is clear, and for the first time in a long time, I feel optimistic. And to Sarah, thanks for the reminder that even in the darkest moments, there's always light on the other side. Wow, what a journey! If you found this story as gripping as I did, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Also, hit the bell icon to get notified every time we upload a new video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay strong, stay resilient, and remember, even in the darkest moments, there's always a light at the end. Welcome back to the channel, where we dive into the most jaw-dropping tales of betrayal and payback. Today's story is one that will leave you on the edge of your seat. Imagine discovering that the two people you trust the most are hiding the darkest secret from you. What would you do? How far would you go to get even? Our story today is titled, Found Out My Best Friend and Boyfriend Were Having an Affair, Here's How I Got My Revenge. Let's get right into it. I never thought I'd be the girl to say this, but here I am, heart shattered, trust broken. It's funny, isn't it? How one moment can turn your entire world upside down. That moment for me? Finding those videos. God, even thinking about it makes my stomach twist. I was at Lara's, my supposed best friend since forever, celebrating her brother's 22nd birthday. The house was buzzing with people, laughter echoing off the walls, drinks flowing like there was no tomorrow. And me? I was floating through it all, tipsy and carefree, until I wasn't. Laura had disappeared outside, mingling or whatever, and I decided it was selfie time. Her phone was lying around, and we always shared everything, so I didn't even hesitate. A few goofy shots later, I had this brilliant idea to send them to myself, for memories. That's when everything changed. Typing in my name, I paused. Ethan's name popped up just below mine. Why? Why would my boyfriend and my best friend be texting? Curiosity morphed into suspicion, morphed into action. I clicked on his name, my heart racing, and that's when I saw them. For videos, thumbnails glaring back at me with a story I wasn't prepared to read. The first video was enough to burn every memory of us to ashes. Ethan, blindfolded, and Laura, very much not, in a way that screamed betrayal. They were intimate, to put it mildly. Each video escalated, their actions a stark contrast to the love and trust one thought we shared. I felt like I was outside my body, watching someone else's life implode. The room spun, my heart pounded, and I had to get out. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I left the party without a word to anyone, especially not Laura. Ethan's been calling, voicemails piling up with him crying, begging for a chance to explain. But what's there to explain? The videos spoke volumes, volumes of lies and deceit. And Laura? She's been radio silent. Guilt, maybe? Or just indifference? Hard to tell with a backstabber. Now, I'm here, sitting in my room, replaying that night over and over. The betrayal by the two people I trusted most has left me reeling, unsure of how to move forward or if I even want to confront them. Part of me wants to scream, to make them feel a fraction of this pain, but another part wonders if silence is the best revenge. What do you do when your world crumbles? When the two people you loved and trusted the most leave you questioning everything? I guess I'm about to find out. The night was supposed to be simple. Can you give Laura a ride home? I asked Ethan, my voice muffled by the phone and the sounds of the bustling cafe where I worked. It was just a favor, nothing more. Ethan, always the charmer, agreed without a second thought. Of course, babe, no problem at all, he assured me, his voice a smooth balm to my frazzled nerves. Little did I know, that ride would mark the beginning of the end. I was pulling an all-nighter at the cafe, the kind of shift that leaves you questioning your life choices. Meanwhile, Laura was out, living it up at a graduation party. She'd been my rock since we were kids, but that night, she became something else entirely. When I finally got a break, my phone lit up with a message from Ethan. Lara's home safe. Heading back to our place now. Relief washed over me, quickly followed by exhaustion. I trusted Ethan implicitly, and Laura was like the sister I never had. It never crossed my mind to doubt either of them. But then, things started to shift. Lara's texts became more frequent, her questions about Ethan more pointed. How's Ethan doing? He's such a sweetheart for giving me a ride. Her words, innocent on the surface, began to carry a weight that I couldn't shake off. And Ethan? He just laughed it off, his usual easygoing self, oblivious to the storm brewing on the horizon. The first seeds of doubt were planted the next time we all hung out together. Laura, who was always more jeans and a t-shirt than anything else, showed up in a dress that left little to the imagination. She clung to Ethan's every word, laughing a little too loudly at his jokes, her eyes lingering on him a little too long. It was subtle, but undeniable. Something had shifted in the dynamics of our trio, and I found myself on the outside looking in. I tried to brush it off, to convince myself that I was reading too much into it. After all, they were just being friendly, right? But the nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach wouldn't go away. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion. You know what's coming, but you're powerless to stop it. Ethan? I found myself asking one night, the word slipping out before I could think better of it, is everything okay with you and Laura? His response was immediate, a perfect blend of confusion and concern. Of course, babe, why wouldn't it be? He pulled me close, his embrace meant to reassure, but the seeds of doubt had already taken root, growing with every passing day. As I lay in his arms that night, the silence between us spoke volumes. The affair might not have been out in the open yet, but the foundation of trust we'd built was starting to crumble. And with each passing moment, I felt myself slipping further away from the two people I loved most, caught in a web of betrayal that I never saw coming. The moment I thought about confronting them, my heart raced like it was trying to beat its way out of my chest. The idea alone felt like stepping off a cliff. Ethan and Laura, the two pillars of my world, suddenly seemed like strangers. Am I just being paranoid? I whispered to the empty room, half hoping for an answer that never came. Ethan's behavior didn't help, if anything, it only tangled my thoughts further. He was the same loving, attentive boyfriend he'd always been, maybe even more so. Flowers, just because. Surprise dinners, his warmth enveloping me in a way that almost made me forget the storm clouds gathering in my mind. Everything okay, Mia? His voice, laced with genuine concern, would pull me back from the edge every time I neared it. You've seemed a bit off lately. How could I tell him what was swirling in my head? That every laugh shared with Laura felt like a knife twisting in my back? And Laura, God, Laura. She crossed lines I didn't even know we had, her questions about Ethan veering from curious to invasive. How did Ethan react to that story you told him? He's got such a great laugh. Comments that once would have seemed innocuous now felt loaded, each one chipping away at my resolve. Their closeness was no longer a figment of my imagination. The way she sought him out, the energy between them, it was palpable, undeniable. Yet every time I steeled myself to confront them, to demand answers, I'd falter. Fear of shattering the fragile peace held me back, the peace that, deep down, I knew was already fractured. The tension became a constant companion, whispering doubts in my ear, painting my thoughts with suspicion. Mia, you're just overthinking things, I'd tell myself, trying to brush away the unease that clung to me like a second skin. But the harder I tried to ignore it, the louder it became. One evening, as I watched Ethan and Laura laughing together over something trivial, something inside me snapped. The laughter wasn't for me. I was on the outside looking in on a connection that had somehow shifted away from our trio, excluding me, isolating me. I needed to talk to someone, anyone who could offer perspective without the emotional turmoil clouding my judgment. My mom, always my sounding board, answered on the first ring. Honey, what's wrong? She asked, her voice a soothing balm. Pouring out my fears and observations felt like releasing a valve, the pressure within easing slightly as I spoke. Mia, listen to me, she said, her tone firm yet gentle. Trust your gut. But remember, accusations need solid ground. Observe, reflect, and then act. Don't let fear make decisions for you. Her words, wise as always, gave me pause. Was I ready to face the potential truth, or was the comfort of ignorance easier to bear? The answer, much like my heart at that moment, was fragmented. As days turned into weeks, the dance continued. Ethan's affection became my anchor, Lara's boldness the storm that threatened to pull me under. The confrontation loomed large, an inevitable crossroads I wasn't sure I had the strength to face. Yet, in the silence of the night, with only my thoughts for company, I realized something had to give. The truth, no matter how painful, was better than the limbo of doubt. I resolved to find my moment, to confront the storm head-on. Little did I know, the eye of that storm was closer than I ever imagined. The air was thick with celebration. Laughter weaving through the crowded backyard as I navigated my way through familiar faces, all gathered for Lara's brother's birthday bash. It was one of those nights where everything felt just right, or so I thought. Little did I know, my world was about to come crashing down in the most unexpected way. I remember feeling light, almost giddy, as I made my way inside Lara's house to escape the chill. The warmth of the interior hit me, a welcome embrace from the crisp night air. That's when I spotted Lara's phone, casually left on the kitchen counter among a clutter of party debris. A harmless idea struck me: why not take a few drunken selfies for laughs? We did it all the time, a silly tradition that never seemed to grow old. Flicking through the camera roll to find my latest series of goofy faces, I noticed the messaging app open in the background. An innocent glance turned into a curious peek, and that's when I saw Ethan's name, popping up in a way it had no right to. My heartbeat accelerated, a mix of confusion and a creeping dread taking hold as I tapped on his name, driven by a force I couldn't resist. The screen loaded, and suddenly, I wasn't in Lara's kitchen anymore. I was somewhere far off, a place where trust and love went to die. Videos, 4 of them, each a knife twisting deeper into my heart. My fingers trembled as I pressed play, each second unraveling the life I thought I knew. The first video was a blow I couldn't have prepared for. Ethan, my Ethan, with Lara in a way he was only supposed to be with me. Blindfolded, vulnerable, and completely unaware I would ever witness this. Their laughter, touches, the intimacy of their betrayal, it was all there, laid bare for my disbelieving eyes. I watched, frozen, as each video descended further into a nightmare. There they were, the two people I trusted most in the world, sharing moments meant for us, for me and Ethan. The realization hit me like a physical force, tears blurring my vision as the final video ended. The room spun around me, the sounds of the party outside a distant, mocking echo. I felt sick, heartbroken, and utterly betrayed. How? Why? Questions spiraled through my mind, but deep down, I knew the answers wouldn't change the raw, aching wound inside. I left the phone where it lay, a Pandora's box of shattered illusions. The urge to confront them, to scream and demand explanations, surged within me. Yet, my feet carried me away, out of Lara's house, away from the scene of my world's quiet collapse. The night air no longer felt crisp, it was cold, a chill that matched the sudden ice in my veins. As I walked, the images played on a loop in my mind, a cruel highlight reel of betrayal. Ethan's and Lara's laughter echoed in my ears, a soundtrack to the unraveling of my trust. I knew then, nothing would ever be the same. The unexpected twist in my story wasn't just a revelation, it was a turning point, a moment that redefined everything I thought I knew about love, friendship, and trust. The moment I stepped out of Lara's house, the cool night air felt like a slap to my face, a harsh contrast to the storm of emotions raging inside me. My phone buzzed incessantly, a relentless reminder of the reality I was desperately trying to escape. It was Ethan, of course. His name lit up my screen over and over, each call a stab of betrayal. I didn't need to hear his voice to know what he would say. The apologies, the explanations, the desperate pleas for understanding, they were all meaningless. How could words undo what I had seen? How could they stitch back together the trust that had been so carelessly ripped apart? I took a deep breath, the decision crystallizing in my mind with a cold, hard finality. Blocking them was almost cathartic, each button press a step towards severing the ties that bound me to the pain. Ethan, Lara, they were parts of my life that I needed to cut out, malignant growths that had hidden their toxicity until now. The walk home was a blur, my thoughts a tangled mess of anger, disbelief, and an overwhelming sense of loss. By the time I reached my apartment, my phone was flooded with voicemails from Ethan. Part of me, a very small part, wanted to listen, to let his words wash over me in a wave of self-torture. But I resisted, there was nothing he could say that would change the images burned into my memory. Ethan again, I muttered to myself, deleting another voicemail unheard. His desperation was palpable, even through the digital distance I had put between us. Mia, please, just let me explain. It's not what it looks like. I swear to you, I didn't know she was filming. Please, babe, we need to talk about this. His words, even unheard, were like echoes in my mind. Could it be true? Did it even matter? The betrayal wasn't just in the act caught on camera, it was in the lies, the secrecy, and the fact that it happened at all. The apartment felt empty, colder somehow, as if the shadows held whispers of the love and trust that had once filled its corners. I sank onto the couch, the silence oppressive, the solitude a stark reminder of the gaping hole Ethan and Lara's actions had torn in my life. In that moment, the urge to confront Ethan, to scream and cry and make him understand the depth of the pain he had caused, was overwhelming. But what would it achieve? The damage was done, the trust shattered beyond repair. No, this was a wound that words could not heal. The night dragged on, each tick of the clock a reminder of the agonizing limbo I found myself in. To confront or to retreat, to seek answers or to accept the painful truth without them. These were questions I couldn't answer, not yet. For now, the only thing I could do was navigate the immediate aftermath of the betrayal, one agonizing step at a time. As dawn crept through the curtains, casting a soft light on the remnants of a life I thought I knew, I realized that this was just the beginning. The road ahead was uncertain, fraught with pain and the daunting task of rebuilding myself from the ashes of my shattered trust. But it was a road I would have to walk, one way or another. The second the idea took root, it was like a wildfire in my veins, consuming the remnants of the hurt and betrayal with a fierce, unyielding intensity. I wasn't going to let them get away with it, not without facing the consequences of their actions. Direct confrontation? No. That would be too easy, too quick. They deserved more. They deserved to feel a fraction of the pain they'd inflicted on me. I spent the night plotting, my mind racing with possibilities until it clicked, the perfect form of revenge. Exposing them, letting everyone see them for who they really were, felt like the only way to strip them of the facade they'd so carefully constructed. The videos were damning evidence, impossible to deny or explain away. I worked methodically, my actions fueled by a cold, detached resolve. Creating anonymous email accounts felt like donning a mask, a necessary shield to hide behind as I prepared to unleash the storm. The videos, once a source of unimaginable pain, were now my weapons, and I wielded them with a precision that surprised even myself. The emails were crafted with care, each word a calculated strike meant to maximize the impact. To Ethan's family, to Lara's, to our friends who'd unknowingly been complicit in their secret, no one was spared. The send button was pressed not once, but several times, each click a step towards my liberation from the agony they'd cause. I imagined the fallout, the shock and horror that would ripple through our circle as the truth came to light. There would be no place for them to hide, no shadows deep enough to conceal the depth of their betrayal. Ethan and Lara, exposed for all to see, their perfect images shattered beyond repair. As the reality of what I'd done began to sink in, a twisted satisfaction took hold. It wasn't joy, far from it, but it was a start, a small flicker of power in the vast darkness they'd left me in. I waited, the silence of the early hours a stark contrast to the chaos I knew was unfolding in the digital realm. My phone remained silent, a testament to the anonymity of my revenge. Yet, I could almost hear the whispers, the shocked gasps, and the inevitable fallout. Ethan and Lara, once inseparable, would now be united in disgrace, their betrayal laid bare for all to see. This wasn't forgiveness, nor was it a path to healing. But in that moment, it was enough. Enough to give me a sense of control, a brief respite from the crushing weight of my shattered trust. As dawn broke, casting a soft light on the remnants of my old life, I knew that nothing would ever be the same. But maybe, just maybe, I could start to rebuild, piece by fragile piece, in the aftermath of the storm I'd unleashed. The silence of the morning after was deafening, each tick of the clock a heavy, echoing reminder of the storm I had unleashed. The night before, my fingers had danced across my phone with a single-minded purpose, sending those videos into the digital ether. It was a calculated move, cold and precise, aimed at exposing the betrayal that had torn my world apart. Now, as dawn broke, the reality of what I had done began to settle in, heavy and inescapable. My phone buzzed relentlessly, a constant barrage of messages and notifications. The digital world was ablaze with the scandal I had ignited. Ethan and Lara, once pillars of my life, were now the epicenter of a social earthquake, their reputations crumbling under the weight of their actions. I had envisioned this moment, played it over in my mind as a scene of triumphant justice. But as I scrolled through the messages, the expected surge of satisfaction eluded me. Instead, a hollow emptiness gnawed at my insides, a realization that no amount of revenge could undo the pain or fill the void left by their betrayal. The opportunity for confrontation came unexpectedly, at a gathering of mutual friends. The room was thick with tension, whispers darting through the air like arrows, each glance heavy with unspoken words. Ethan and Lara stood together, isolated, their eyes searching the room until they found mine. The moment was charged, a crackling anticipation of the inevitable clash. Ethan stepped forward, his face a mask of regret. "Mia, please, can we talk?" His voice was low, tinged with a desperation that might have once moved me. Lara stood by his side, her eyes downcast, a silent plea hanging between us. The words I had rehearsed for so long suddenly felt hollow. "There's nothing left to say," I responded, my voice steady but devoid of warmth. "You both made your choices, and now you have to live with them." The finality in my tone left no room for arguments or excuses. Turning my back on them, I walked away, leaving their apologies unacknowledged. It was a moment of closure, but not the kind I had imagined. There was no sense of victory, no triumphant exit. Just a deep, aching sadness for what had been lost. In the days that followed, the fallout from the public exposure was impossible to ignore. Ethan's friendships deteriorated, his social circle shrinking as the reality of his actions set in. Lara faced a similar fate, her once vibrant presence now a shadow, tainted by the choices she had made. As I watched from a distance, the consequences of my revenge unfolding, a bitter truth settled in my heart. The destruction of their social lives, the isolation they faced, it didn't bring me peace. Instead, it served as a constant reminder of the betrayal, a wound that refused to heal. In the quiet moments, when the noise of the world faded into the background, I was forced to confront the scars that the betrayal had left on my soul. Trust, once given so freely, now felt like a luxury I could no longer afford. The walls I had built around my heart were higher, stronger, a fortress to protect me from the pain of betrayal. The journey from love to betrayal, from betrayal to revenge, had brought me to this place, a place of reflection, where the cost of my actions lay bare before me. Despite the successful revenge, satisfaction remained an elusive shadow, a reminder that some wounds run too deep to be healed by retribution alone. In the end, the downfall of Ethan and Lara was not a story of victory. It was a tale of loss, a cautionary reminder of the fragility of trust and the price of vengeance. As I moved forward, the lessons of this chapter etched deep in my heart. I knew the road to healing would be long and uncertain. But it was a road I was ready to walk, one step at a time, in search of a peace that revenge could never bring. The morning light crept through the curtains, casting a soft glow across the room, illuminating a new chapter in my life. The past few months had been a whirlwind of emotions, a tumultuous journey through betrayal, pain, and ultimately, growth. As I sat at my desk, surrounded by textbooks and notes, I couldn't help but reflect on how far I'd come. My studies and part-time job had become my sanctuary, a place where I could lose myself in routine and responsibility, away from the chaos that had once consumed my life. Each day was a step forward, a testament to my resilience. I had learned to guard my heart, to see the red flags I had once so naively ignored. It was a cautious stance, one where I was constantly aware of the shadows of my past. Ethan's attempts to reach out had been a steady background noise, a reminder of the life I had left behind. His messages, filled with regret and pleas for forgiveness, went unanswered. It wasn't out of spite, but rather a necessary step towards healing. I had moved on, leaving him to grapple with the consequences of his actions. It was a chapter closed, a lesson learned. Lara's fate was a mirror to the consequences of betrayal. The vibrant, carefree friend I once knew had become a shadow of her former self, isolated by the very actions she thought she could hide. The backlash was swift, a social exile that left her grappling with guilt and loneliness. It pained me to see her fall so far, but it was a path she had chosen, a stark reminder of the fragile nature of trust. Despite the scars, the pain had carved a path to new beginnings. My world, once so narrowly focused on Ethan and Lara, had gradually expanded, welcoming new faces, new friendships. It was a cautious process, each new connection forged with a wisdom born from betrayal. Trust was no longer given freely, it was earned, a precious commodity that I guarded with vigilance. The final lesson, the silver lining in the stormy clouds of my past, was a profound understanding of my worth. Betrayal, while a bitter pill to swallow, had taught me the value of self-respect, the importance of setting boundaries, and the necessity of walking away from those who no longer served my best interests. It was a painful journey, but one that had ultimately led me to a place of strength and empowerment. As I turned my attention back to my studies, the noise of the world outside fading into a distant hum, I realized that the betrayal, though a defining moment, was no longer the anchor it had once been. It was a part of my story, but not the entirety of it. I had emerged from the darkness, not unscathed, but stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with its own challenges and triumphs, but I faced it with a newfound confidence. The lessons of the past, while hard-earned, had equipped me with the tools to navigate the complexities of life with grace and determination. Betrayal had broken me, but in its wake, I had discovered an unshakable sense of self, a compass by which to steer my future. And so, with a deep breath, I embraced the day, ready for whatever lay ahead, secure in the knowledge that I was no longer the person I had once been. I was stronger, wiser, and infinitely more capable of facing the world on my own terms. The final lesson had been learned, and with it, a new chapter had begun. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible tales of revenge. Don't forget to leave a comment below about what you would do in this situation. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm thrilled to have you here for another captivating tale that will tug at your heartstrings and keep you on the edge of your seat. Today's story is one of love, betrayal, and the quest for self-discovery. It's titled "I Closed Up the Coffee Shop, Then a Customer Lost Her Mind, Called the Cops Over Missing Earbuds." Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go. So, I work in a coffee shop. Most of our customers are genuinely lovely people, but over the years, I have learned about the levels of entitlement and just plain crazy that exist. To be honest, I didn't think anyone could surprise me anymore. Tonight's events might actually have surpassed the guy who put a curse on me and my family. The guy who threw a ceramic cup at my head one morning. The drunk girls who threw up all over the front door at 7 a.m. then walked in and got grumpy that we didn't have any vegan breakfast items. The time a guy managed to get himself so wound up that he started swearing at me because I hadn't laughed hard enough at his "if you can't find a product on the till, then it's free" joke. That I have previously never ever heard before. Ever. Honest. Yeah, okay. So today I was cleaning up like usual and for once, it was going pretty smoothly. One of those dream shifts where you look around and just know you're going to get out on time. No last-minute customers demanding you make drinks and mess up every piece of equipment you've just spent an hour cleaning. It was glorious. I did the usual rounds telling the last few stragglers that we were closing in 5 so if they could start finishing up and getting themselves ready and so on. And I went through to the office to start the admin. Now, one thing you need to know is our company policy states that you can't take the till off and count it until the doors are locked. Obviously, you can't lock the doors until all the customers have left. And this is usually not a problem. So I came back through to lock the doors and there she is. Let's call her Karen, okay? Karen is standing near the front door and emptying out the entire contents of her purse and pram all over a table. I looked at the girl who I was working with and raised an eyebrow. She's working with me long enough to recognize the what the hell is going on look. Apparently, Karen had lost an earbud. Great. So since she's been a regular customer for over a year, I put on my best customer service act and go across. We went back and checked where I knew she'd been sitting. Then check out the other table she had also been sitting at earlier. Turns out I never want to put my bare hands that far down the sides of the sofas again. We both searched and couldn't see anything. I offered for her to leave her details in case it turned up in the morning. I'm on early so I'd have another look tomorrow. But nope. This wasn't good enough. Before my eyes, this usually very normal, polite, pretty, reserved grown woman turned into a raging banshee. Screeching about how they are 150-pound earpods. Several things happened over the next half hour. Her husband appeared. Someone needs to give that man a medal, or maybe a CT scan. He quickly sussed out the situation and tried to talk some sense into her. She then started screaming about how she wasn't leaving until it was found. And she was calling the police. At one point, they were physically fighting over her phone while she dialed 999. And he was calling her crazy. Side note, never call a Karen crazy. It does not end well, my friend. I was standing to the side quietly watching this all unfold. Keys in one hand and phone in the other. While texting my boss what was going on and reminding her she really does not pay me enough to deal with this. Being the absolute champion boss she is, she called and heard some of that chaos going on in the background. Karen's poor husband continued to try and reason with her. There was a little more chat between me and him while she wailed down the phone at the police. She started demanding I go check the rubbish bags. Apparently telling her she was more than welcome to go check them herself. But they were in the skip bins at the back of the building. Was just not the right answer. Eventually, her extremely patient husband got sick of her so he left. At one point, she shouted at my colleague who asked her to move so she could finish mopping the floor, which sicked Karen off again. Her husband reappeared as she was kicking off at me again for stepping in and saying the girl didn't shout at her. And pointing out that after her behavior for the past 20 minutes, she was in no position to decide who is and is not shouting. It was at this point she finally pushed the limit of my patience when she said the words, "I am not leaving until you show me respect. You would treat me differently if I was from this country." Now something else you should know, I'm not actually from this country either. I might have the local accent, but my birth certificate states something different. I'm also not white, so I take particular offense when someone tries to use a race card in a racist way. Sometimes people are just jerks and it has nothing to do with the skin color of anyone involved. So my restrained customer persona slipped. I left one of those, "Are you kidding me?" laughs. I said the words, "Did you actually just call me racist?" "Nope, I'm out." While her husband started having a go at her for being ridiculous, I went and grabbed a till and stormed off into the office, half expecting to come back out and find Karen chaining herself to the front door and chanting, "We shall not be moved." About 10 minutes later, 2 wonderful police officers showed up. Karen had suddenly turned into a timid and demure delicate little victim again while whining about her plight to these guys. They also quickly worked out what was going on. Apparently, the call they got had said it was a domestic incident. It was clearly not a domestic incident. They spent 5 minutes searching the same areas and also found no AirPod in sight and suggested she leave her contact details for us to call her if it turned up in the morning. Karen thought this was a great idea. I pointed to the counter and said the pen and paper were still sitting there from when we offered that same thing an hour before. Granted, it was a childish move, but after hearing the police officers ask him where her child was while she played with the AirPod, my last sliver of understanding and patience evaporated. Turns out Karen had freely given her very expensive, arguably overpriced headphones to her 4-year-old child to play with, then flipped out and called the police when one went missing. Seriously, I can't even begin to explain how livid I was at this point. Needless to say, she was heavily scolded and warned by the police officers. She actually burst into tears and she is now barred from the premises by orders of my boss. Best boss ever. So, I've started to get into belly socks, butterfly knives, like a couple months ago. I love it very much and I have a couple of knives. I love to do it in public too, but when I'm around people I always use my crack racking version 2.5, basically a trainer knife so it doesn't have an edge. Today I was walking with my friends and I was playing with my trainer knife as usual, when a kid runs up to me. "Hi, what's that? Can I try it?" The kid was around like 9 or 10. "Sure, but do you have any of your parents here? Because I don't want to get in trouble." "Yeah, my mom is here." And he runs to his mother and comes back a couple of minutes later. "Mom, it's him. He has that thing." The kid was really excited at this point. "Can you show us some tricks, please?" "Sure." So I started to do a couple of easier tricks like a thumb around. "Hey, put that knife away. You're gonna hurt us." "No, I can't do that, even if I wanted to. This is a training knife, so it's fully dull and doesn't have an edge." And then, I grabbed a blade. "Put that away or I'm going to call the police. If you want to, you're going to be the only one who's in trouble." So we waited there until the police arrived. "Yep," she called him. "So, what seems to be the problem here? This young man has a knife and hurt us." Her kid says. "No, he didn't say anything wrong." The police officer turns to me. "Is that true? You've got a knife?" "Yes, officer. I've got one in my pocket. It's a butterfly knife, but it's a trainer so it doesn't have an edge. Can you show it to me?" Slowly. "Sure." And I reached into my pocket and handed it to the officer by the blade. "So he sees it doesn't have an edge." "Okay, I see no problem here." "Thank you, sir." And he started to hand me my knife, but the entitled parent snapped it out of the officer's hand and decided, I don't know why, to slap the officer. "Ma'am, put that knife down and put your hands behind your back. Now." "But I'm just doing what you can't do." Then she threw my knife full force to the ground. And the rest of the story was that the mother got arrested for lying to an officer, harming him, and damaging someone's property. And me and my friend stayed with the kid until his dad arrived. So without getting too political, we recently had an election in the USA. My aunt supported one side while her husband and adult offspring supported the other side. The election did not go the way my aunt wanted it to. Aunt proceeded to flip her crap, breaking things, yelling, and even going as far as to set her daughter's "I voted" sticker on fire. Her husband, called the cops, declined to arrest her for anything, but suggested that she find a different place to stay for the night. This happened yesterday in New Jersey. Fast forward to 2 a.m. today. Here I am sleeping peacefully in my home with my family, over 500 miles from all that drama. My fence alarm goes off, waking me up. I don't know if it's a bear or a trespasser, so I get my pants on and grab my shotgun just to be safe. Turns out, my aunt cut the locks off my front gate because she couldn't get in, and I wasn't entering my phone. Why did she have bolt cutters in her car? So I safely stow my weapon and ask her what the hell. She starts crying and screaming. Mind you, this is at 2 a.m. in a quiet rural community about how the devil took her family and they threw her out. And she says that since she has nowhere else to go, I need to let her in, so she can stay in my guest room for a while. I told her one of my guildies is using that room right now. The room is occupied. This person came from Texas all the way to West Virginia to hang out with me. I'm not gonna toss them out with 30 seconds of notice because my aunt showed up. So she decides to call the police and tell them that I'm keeping her from entering her home. We're out in the woods, so the cops don't get here quickly. 4:41 in the morning, the cops showed up. I see them talking to her in my driveway. She shows them the bolt cutters and the ruined lock. A few minutes later, the officer knocks on my door. Your tenant claims that. I immediately cut him off and told him that I do not have a tenant. I own and occupy this structure. Then I offered to show him the deed. Well, this woman claims that. I cut him off again. What does the address of her ID say? At this point, the cop is pissed at me. I can tell. So I try to de-escalate the situation. Look man, she doesn't live here. She has never lived here. That's my aunt. She lives in New Jersey. Please check her ID card. The cop calms down a bit and lets me know that he will talk to her and then comes back. 10 minutes later, the cops come back to my door. 3 of them this time. Not just the one from earlier. One of them had stripes and a rocker on his arm. He asks me if there is any way Aunt can stay here for the night. Because she's too drunk to drive, so he can't let her back on the road. This woman just drove from New Jersey to West Virginia drunk. Thank God she didn't kill anyone. I told him that she cannot stay here, but that I'm sure there is room in the local jail. The cop asks me if she can just sleep in her car in my driveway and leave in the morning. I told him absolutely not. When she wakes up in the morning, I would just have to call him to get her off of my property, so that would solve nothing, and I ask him to remove her from my property. Long story short, her car got towed and she is in a drunk tank for the night. I was a witness to this a long time ago and the results were learned by word of mouth. Once upon a time, there was a kid. Let's call him Marco. Marco was your everyday kid. A little skinny. I remember him being slightly geeky and if you left your pins unattended, he'd disassemble them before you turned back around in your seat at times. He was nice, polite, and fairly helpful. This was middle school. One day though, he does it to a bully and let's call him Polo. Polo is huge but was fat. He looks like if you drill 3 holes into him, a giant could use him for bowling. He's not nice, he's not handsome, and he's got a posse of equally disgusting friends who all gang up together to bully others. I suspect that if they hadn't ganged up with each other, they would have been bullied. Perhaps they have been in the past and got a taste of power over others when they ganged up. I don't know. I kept to myself. One day, I saw Marco with a swollen eye and wet hair. He's limping a bit too and his backpack is ripped. I ask him what the hell happened and turns out Polo threw him into a bathroom stall by his backpack which ripped. The toilet got him in a knee and Polo shoved his face into the water bashing his eye into the seat. I asked why Polo had done this to him and he says, I took his pin apart. It was just a big crystal or some cheap pin like that. Things escalate over the next few weeks. Eventually, Marco has to take time off when Polo strips him naked in the bathroom except for his boxers and makes him shove them into the toilet. The school, being full of your typical jerks, tries to expel Marco for damage to school property and does nothing to Polo. This is taught by video evidence of the gang leaving the bathroom, laughing and rifling through Marco's backpack, then tossing it in the trash. When Marco comes back, he's different. He's not happy. He's quite subdued and he doesn't talk to anyone, and bruises magically appear on him between classes. He withdraws into himself and begins to look positively skeletal. Of course, no one at the school does anything except one nice jock. He comes across Polo stealing Marco's backpack and Polo into a trash can. Of course, he's suspended. But does it again when he comes back. The teachers give up on suspending the jerk after his parents threaten to sue. The fact that someone bothered to stand up for him, though, seems to have given life back to Marco. He starts opening back up and putting weight back on, which is very good. One day, though, he's wearing a scarf, a very special, beautiful knitted scarf. His grandfather had knitted for him. Yes, grandfather before he died. Polo steals it and comes back the next day with a bag of ashes, handing it to Marco. And he laughs hysterically. Marco comes back the next day with a backpack full of sugar-free Haribo gummy bears. Polo, being the glutton that he is, steals every single bag of bears and eats them by the throughout the day. Marco cries. But I remember something in his sobs didn't quite reach his eyes. Near the end of the school day, Polo lurches out of the classroom and pulls for the bathroom. He doesn't come back the next day. Or the next. Someone says they saw blood in the bathroom. Polo comes back a few days later with an eye patch and mottled, fading bruises all across his face. I believe it's called petechiae eye. He's permanently blind in his left eye, and bruising makes him look like a ripening fruit for as long as it lasts. He's in and out of school for doctor's appointments for a while. He did not mess with Marco again and instead became very introverted and quiet. The reports of blood in the toilet of the bathroom he went to were never confirmed. But it's quite likely. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Wow, what an emotional journey that was. If you enjoyed these unbelievable real-life stories and want to hear more, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know if you have any jaw-dropping stories of your own. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our upcoming episodes. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one on Josiah.